It's quiet at first. This song of love for all the living things. Hi, I'm Patricia. Before recorded history, humans knew singing as a deep source of power. Power to change, power to heal, power to be present with what is. Right here, right now, we are remembering the ancient gift of song, using modern tech to help us tap into resilience and capacity in chaotic, difficult times. And it's so simple. We sing with our own voices just the way they show up, creaky, smooth, me in my marigold yellow basement, you exactly where you are now. Today's song, Quiet at First by Eileen Webb, is the 158th song you can find at abreathofsong.com, each with the permission and blessing of the song carrier. Every fifth episode, there's an in-depth conversation with one of those huge-hearted people who, like you and me, is using song to help navigate life. Explore the growing library at abreathofsong.com and join my subscribers for emails that can light up your inbox with a moment of connection and beauty. But right now, all the presence, the becoming, the change-generating power of song starts with the body and breath. So let's go there first by stretching, listening to our muscles and bones. Oh, rocking side to side, forward and back, noticing how your feet are connected to the floor or the ground or the car pedals below you. Feeling up through your legs, into your hips. Let your hips loosen a little bit, release. Maybe shake, maybe jiggle. Oh, and tracking with your mind up your spine, letting your spine be flexible like a piece of seaweed floating, reaching, letting it arc side to side, and letting it stretch up. And as it stretches, let your shoulders fall away. Let your hands and your arms loosen, release. Maybe roll your shoulders around to the back. Feel that stretch and how they are independent. They can move freely, easily. Yeah. And letting your attention come up to the back of your face, where your jaw connects to your skull. Releasing that a little bit. Maybe chewing and scrunching up your face and opening it up wide. And scrunching it up tight again. And opening out wide. Oh, yeah. And feeling the reach through the top of your skull. How there's space above your head. Sort of push up into that space a little bit. Feel what it's like to be grounded low and stretched high. And notice the air coming in. As the air flows in, your body opens to receive it. And let it release. And let it flow back in. Release. Let it flow back in. Let it release. And just a little bit of or if you can't do that, flutter your tongue. Or if you can't do that, say fabulous. Once a man named Kai Skye of flyingedna.com wrote these words: "It's quiet at first, this song of love for all the living things. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend there's something better you could be doing." My incredibly inventive friend Eileen Webb created a song with these words, and she decided she wanted to be accompanied by a thrush. So we're going to learn all these different parts that you could sing, and then we're going to sing with the same thrush she sang with, because she did something special with the recording to make it so that the thrush kept regular time. Makes it a little easier to sing with. But here are some of the parts you could do. You could, with just a dong, go dong, 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 dong. And you could just repeat that over and over again. And there's another instrumental part, if you like that kind of part, that you could add in at some point, which would go dong, 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 dong. And repeat over and over again. Yeah, that's kind of sweet, right? Do you want to try it? Dong, 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 dong. And then just hold. Dong. Yeah. Or then there are the parts with the words. Oh, and there's a rhythm. Dong, tuk, 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 dong, tuk, dong, tuk, dong, boom, chita, tita, dong, chita, tita. So you could play with that rhythm if you wanted. But here are some of the words, and we'll just do a little bit at a time. You can sing back to me. It's quiet at first. Try it. It's quiet at first. And then we just wait for a minute to listen. 1, 2, 3, 4. This song of love for all the living things. Try it. And this song of love for all the living things. Yeah, and then we wait a little longer. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. But once you start to hear it, let's just try that. 2. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend. It's quite impossible to pretend. There is something better you could be doing. There is something better you could be doing. That's the whole melody. Let's put it together. I'll sing the whole thing. 1, 2, 3. It's quiet at first. 3, 4, 1. This song of love for all the living things. And we still wait. And 1, 2, 3. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend. There is something better you could be doing. Let's just do that again. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to play this little part below it. Here we go. It's quiet at first. This song of love for all the living things. And wait for it. Here we go. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend. There is something better you could be doing. How'd that feel? Yeah? So that's the core melody. You can sing that part. You could harmonize it, and it would sound like this. I'll play that melody on the piano, and I'll sing the harmony. 1, 2, 3. It's quiet at first. 3, 4, 1. This song of love for all the living things. I can't wait till you're hearing the thrush during this part. 1, 2, here we go. But once you start to hear it, it's impossible to pretend. There is something better you could be doing. So just by itself, that harmony, 1, 2, 3. It's quiet at first. This song of love for all the living things. And we wait, and we wait. Here we go. But once you start to hear it, and then we wait for that impossible to pretend moment. There is something better you could be doing. Eileen said she left the harmony out of that it's quite impossible to pretend moment because she wants it to be super direct and focused. It's quite impossible to pretend. It's like a moment of turning and looking at the camera directly and saying, whoa, it's quite impossible to pretend here. Yeah. So that's the upper harmony part. And then there's also the option of adding a low harmony, and I'm going to add that just the third time through, just towards the end. It's going to sound like this. Just at the end, after it's quite impossible to pretend, and then it's going to go, there is something better you could be doing. And then, to really close it out, we're going to go back to once you start to hear it. We're going to just reprise that little ending part, and we'll add a low harmony there. It'll go like this. Once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend there is anything better you could be doing. And the top two parts are going to shift just a little bit there at the end, but I can see I'm out of teaching time really. So let's go ahead and sing it with the thrush. Dum, 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 dum. It's quiet at first. Dum, dum. This song of love for all the living things. Dum, dum. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend there is something better you could be doing. Dum, dum, dum. It's quiet at first. Dum, dum. This song of love for all the living things. Dum, dum, dum. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend is something better you could be doing. Dum, dum, dum. It's quiet at first. Dum, dum, dum. This song of love for all the living things. Dum, 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 dum. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend there's something better you could be doing. Dum. Once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend there is anything better you could be doing. I'm so glad you're singing with me and with the thrush. We're going to take a pause here before we sing the song again because science shows that our brains remember better that way. And while we're paused, let me remind you that the podcast is available to you because of the generous contributions of many people. Maybe you're already one of them. Holy schmoly, I don't know how to tell you how much I appreciate your support. Helping is easy. You can contribute to the Gratitude Jar page at abreathofsong.com. And of course, your reviews and your shares and your comments to me all matter. Eileen and I met circle singing with Bobby McFerrin and faculty at the Omega Institute in 2015. We were both new to the idea of making songs up on the spot, singing music that's already around us in the air, and we both loved it and have continued to share this kind of group vocal play together when we can, and in our own communities. I am jealous of anybody who lives close enough to Portland, Maine to get to go sing with Eileen. She's a highly skilled facilitator, and I've learned so much from her of both discernment and joyful experimentation. I love the way this song has so much space for listening in it. That's just an example of who Eileen is. Please feel free to sing quiet at first here as often as you like, and if you're inspired to share it on, Eileen says the song is free to share in oral tradition groups, but please contact her for recording and or performing permission. I don't know where you'll find the thrush that'll help you out, but you can figure that out. Should we sing it again now, help our brains and bodies retain it? Let's just do the whole thing, because it's so beautiful and it's so satisfying. Maybe you'll sing the same part that you sang last time. Maybe you'll pick a different part. Maybe you'll try a couple of different things. Who knows? Here's your chance to experiment. Starting down here. Dum, dum. Those are our pitches. 2, 3, 4. Dum, 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 dum. It's quiet at first. Dum, dum. This song of love for all the living things. Dum, dum, dum. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend there is something better you could be doing. Dum, dum, dum. It's quiet at first. Dum, dum. This song of love for all the living things. Dum, dum, dum. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend there's something better you could be doing. Dum, dum, dum. It's quiet at first. But once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend. There is something better you could be doing. Once you start to hear it, it's quite impossible to pretend there is anything better you could be doing. So many thanks to Eileen Webb for providing the thrush track, the drum track, and of course the song. And thank you for joining me today for A Breath of Song, for taking care of yourself and listening to your voice. I believe making a better world starts with tuning into ourselves and each other, which is what we just did. So yay us. Let a friend know about the show so they can join too, and next time we'll plant another song. Until then, be well.